today we are talking about the massive changes announced just a few hours ago by Blizzard for Mythic Plus Season 2. So, we are skipping all of the 2 to 3 minute introduction before we even start going through all of the changes one by one, and instead have this already. Let's just get this out of the way. This is the recap of what is coming in Season 2. The gilded crests now come from +7s instead of +8s. The hero track level for your gear starts at +6. You then have Mythic 0 now being on an equal footing in terms of reward with Delves, because now Mythic 0 also drops champion track gear. Then you have the moving up or the stretching of Tyrannical and Fortified. Previously, and by previously we mean right now, Tyrannical and Fortified come in Mythic Plus at +4 and +10. Now they come at +7 and +10. Why is that? Because right now, between +4 and +10 of Tyrannical and Fortified, there is the +7 of the Challenger's Peril, which is the death penalty, right? The death penalty is going away from +7. The death penalty is kicked all the way up to +12. The +12, where you have the extra harder scaling for your keys, Xal'atath's Guile, now also has cooked into it the death penalty. So up until you reach +12s, the death penalty is completely gone. The last change is the update on the depletion prevention that was already announced for Season 2. Previously it was, now if you have completed every single key at least +12, all of your higher keys cannot deplete below +12. So if you have a +13 key, it depletes to 12. If you have a +16 key, it can deplete to 15, 14, 13 and 12, but then it stays at 12 and doesn't go below. Now this part has been updated. Now this can keep rising level after level after level if you have completed all keys at a certain key level. So if you have completed them all at 13, now your keys cannot deplete below 13. If you have completed them all at 14, now they can't deplete below 14. That's the other and last change with this announcement. So after having given you the TLDR rather than at the end of the video, at the beginning, we can now go one by one about these changes. Why are they happening, and is it good or is it bad? Starting from the first point that Blizzard themselves points out, which is the change of putting Mythic 0 at the same level as the Delve system. Blizzard pointed out this problem about how players now find the Delve system a pretty good system, a pretty successful system. It's a nice way for you to learn your character, your spec, your key bindings, your weak auras by yourself, you know, without griefing anyone else. However, what's the problem? The problem is that when you are in the Delves, you get champion track gear, and then once you're thinking, I'm ready, let's start playing into Mythic Plus, the item level, you know, the equivalent for some upgrades for your characters start around +7. So you, doing 0 Mythic Plus, now start queuing up into a +7. And Blizzard was like, well, +7 shouldn't really be the point of entry for players if they want to start Mythic Plus. They should be doing it at much lower down. But the Delve gear was just practically outdating the low-level Mythic Plus rewards. So Blizzard's solution is to increase the base difficulty of Mythic 0 and then the scaling of the following Mythic Plus keys, but now Mythic 0 starts giving you champion track, which is the same as the Delve system. So now at least they are normalized, and you can also still gain equal power in Mythic 0 than you already are in the Delve system right now. Now, to be fair, TLDR, this change is completely worthless. Players who were enjoying the Delve system, not having to interact at low-level Mythic Plus keys, they were rather casuals, they didn't really care too much about low-level Mythic Plus. Even with this change, not much really is going to affect players who were already enjoying the Delve system, especially with all of the buffs coming in the Delve rewards in Season 2. This is, for example, currently, it might change, but in the PTR, this is what you can get by simply spamming Delves. A whole bunch of ruined crests by completing tier 8s, 10s and 11s, and then at tier 11 now in Season 2 you will also get gilded crests as well. So this first change is kind of whatever when it comes to normalizing the Mythic 0 gear to be at the same level as the Delve system. The Delve system is still better overall for that low level of gear. Now, the biggest change about the difficulty of Mythic Plus itself, of course, is the stretching of Tyrannical and Fortified. So now you don't start getting, let's just say, Tyrannical at +4. You will have time all the way up until +7, which is good by itself. And then the much better part, which is the removal of Challenger's Peril, now being pushed all the way up to +12. So after nerfing Challenger's Peril by practically giving you 4 to 5 deaths as a safe net before this one would actually impact you by simply increasing the timer of the keys, now it's not even there until you reach +12. This is definitely, especially at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the let's spam Mythic Plus because we want gear, etc, etc, is definitely the best of the changes, the one that will save you the most time, not having nearly as much of a high chance of depleting keys, for example, because of this feature, which is now gone for 5 full key levels. So you can now forget about this completely until you reach +12. It's definitely a very good change for pugging in the early part of the season, which is often, or rather always, the most crowded. Most players will join in at the beginning of the season when it comes to Mythic Plus, and maybe they have an experience so bad they quit Mythic Plus for the rest of the season, and possibly sometimes the bad experience was also thanks to this death penalty, which is now gone until you reach +12. Now, at face value, it seems like this season becomes much easier, because based on where they put the rewards earlier on, you would think about this. Okay, so now, because they stretched Tyrannical or Fortified to happen into +7s instead of +4s, for example, or another change in scaling to help the lower keys being easier, which is now the damage and health of enemies is going to scale by 7% per level instead of 10% per level until you reach Mythic +10. So +2s, 3s, 4s, 7s, 8s, now we'll have 7% more damage and health per level of your enemies. So based on this, you would think that a +6 is going to be easier than a +4. A +7, which is a good checkpoint because that's when you start earning Gilded Crest now in Season 2, is even easier now than a +5 in live. So you can get Gilded Crests as the equivalent difficulty of doing a +5 right now. A +10, which is where you start getting your Myth track gear in your vault in Season 2, is now easier than a current +8, and even a +12 in Season 2 will be easier than a current season +10. But this seems like the TLDR is that Mythic Plus has been made much easier for the early rewards. Not really, because as pointed out, Mythic 0, giving you Champion Track, also has gotten the base level. So the base level of the enemies, of damage and health of the enemies adjusted to be harder. So all of the keys that will start scaling off of that level, so from +2 and 3 and 4, they will now start from a higher threshold. So it's not nearly as easy. We don't have the actual number, of course, because Blizzard didn't just say precisely. They simply mentioned that the health and damage of enemies starting from Mythic 0 is increased to reflect the improved rewards. We don't actually now, for now, have the certain numbers, but it's not, it's not as easy as it would sound from what we just pointed out. Now, there is, though, a particular problem about lowering the reward thresholds. So Myth Track drops from +10 and Gilded Crest now from +7 instead of +8, and now Hero Track comes from +6. There is a problem. As you can see from the graph here, you have Mythic +6 dropping Hero Track, right? Okay, but then the Hero Track will continue to drop at a higher base until Hero 3 out of 6 at +12, but also +11, but also +10. So basically, as you start doing +10, which will be the new default benchmark for players who are pushing Mythic Plus keys early on for good rewards, because Mythic +10 also means Myth Track in your vault, so that's the good one. Hero Track 3 out of 6 means that now your runed crests, so the ones you needed to upgrade either the last points of the Champion Track gear, but also the Hero Track gear from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. Now, it's only needed practically for 1 upgrade level. Because if you're doing +10s, and you're dropping Hero Track 3 out of 6, you spend 15, or I guess 15, ruined crests to get it from 4 out of 6, and then at 4 out of 6 you would require Gilded Crests. So the value of your ruined crests and upgrading your gear with ruined crests will go down by a lot in Season 2, because you won't have that much gear to upgrade. If you start somewhat early doing 10+ keys, then the value of your ruined crest will be very, very low. And also, as a result, of course, upgrading the hero gear with gilded crests will be much more of a grief. Now, obviously, of course, there are players who simply won't have enough access to mid-track gear, so they might as well spend the gilded crests on their hero track gear, right? If you don't do mythic raiding, for example, and you're not getting that much mid-track gear anyways, you might as well dump them on your hero track gear. However, remember, you still have the crafted gear, which has also been significantly buffed already, and will continue to be buffed in Season 2, where you only need 60 gilded crests to craft a mid-track gear. So there will be, in Season 2, a devaluing, and even faster, because honestly, if you remember the beginning of the season, it's not that ruined crests remain relevant a lot, but definitely more than a couple of weeks. With this change, and you getting hero track gear 3 out of 6 from doing a +10, it means that you will have very little room, very little moments where you can actually find tons of gear to upgrade with ruined crests. To the point where early on, for max power, you might even start upgrading champion gear or the lower level hero track gear, because you wouldn't have that much to spend your ruined crests with anyways with this change. Now the last of the change was the one, of course, for your depletion protection past +12s. So obviously, since I've seen some players confused, yes, this is not guaranteeing that every key you do doesn't deplete, right? If you are at a point, for example, next season where you have 6 keys done at +13 and only 2 left to complete at +13, they will still deplete back down to 12. Because you don't have all of your keys completed at +13. Even when you have only 1 left, imagine this season you only had Stonevolt left at +15. You have done all keys at +15, Stonevolt is the only one left. If you deplete Stonevolt 15, it's gonna go down to 14. However, at the very least, that's where the protection is. Even if you were to retry it again, this time at 14, depleting that key would still stay at 14, because you would have had all of your keys done at the very least at +14, so you wouldn't deplete below that. So currently in live, you had absolutely 0 protection. If you depleted that 14, it would have gone down to 13, and if you depleted that, it would have gone down to 12, and it would have continued to go down. The initial change in Season 2 was that it was only giving you protection above +12. So keys could continue to deplete from 20, from 19, or from 16. They would continue to deplete and only stop at 12. With this change, they can now be raised by 1 more level if you have completed all key levels at that difficulty. So when this prevention can start is +12. Once you get the achievement of your +12 keys completed, then you can go up to +13, and then 14, 15, 16, etc, etc. So obviously this is for a much smaller part of the player base. It's not nearly as wide of a change as spreading out Fortified and Tyrannical, or lowering the Mythic Plus key level requirement for your gilded crests or for your hero track and mid-track gear. This only affects players that want to go above and beyond +12 keys, but it is still definitely good, because it might very simply save time for the many groups busy doing the homework keys and having to bring them back up. Sometimes you will have some discounts, some time discounts of not having the keys deplete even further than just 1 level below what you were trying to improve on. So it's also a very good change for a smaller part of the player base, but usually a very vocal one and a very competitive one. So that is also very positive. So with this, we've now gone through the TLDR of all of the planned changes so far in Mythic Plus Season 2. On top of the changes that Blizzard already announced, planned for the release of the season, now we have even better improvements across the board. We can say pretty much all of these changes are very positive. From the low level, the entry level keys, the spreading of Tyrannical and Fortified, the removal of Challenger's Peril all the way up until +12, the depletion prevention now scaling even beyond +12s in Mythic Plus as well. So all of these have been very, very positive so far. Now, since we can strike where the iron is hot and Blizzard seems in the mood for changes, maybe we can start thinking about doing something in Season 2 about Valor Stones, right? Perhaps doing something about this wretched currency, which is quite annoying to deal with, Granted, sure, with the lower cost of crafted gear, maybe, you know, because crafted gear doesn't cost Valor Stones, maybe that's gonna be not as big of a problem, but still, I would like for better ways to deal with this currency. However, for now, we can just still be positive on the changes planned for Season 2 of Mythic Plus with what Blizzard gave us for today. So, with this being said, we can now leave each other on this Wednesday, on this reset day in EU. We can start the goodbyes, of course, by thanking everyone for having watched the video, together with, of course, everyone else who has been supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with this thing out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, not looking good. It's like 9 degrees outside. Is this even winter? 9 degrees?